Alexander Volkanovski taking on Ilia Topuria. And this is a much anticipated fight. Ilia Topuria has been talking a lot, and Alexander Volkanovski's the type of guy that when you talk shit to him, he matches that same energy. So he's been bringing that intensity to this fight. It's definitely going to be a really, really high intensity matchup, and I think it's going to be really high level, really fun to watch. Obviously, Volkanovski has been the king at 145 for a long time now. He has defended his belt quite a few times, and I think if he can get past Ilia and maybe one more, he's probably going to be in contention for one of the best UFC champions of all time. But recently, he hasn't had the best success. I mean, he's lost 2 of his last 3 fights. Granted, both of them were to the number 1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world currently, Islam Makhachev, and they were up at 155 pounds, but they were still losses. And one of those losses, he got knocked out, which was the last time he fought. So that's a big factor into this fight, especially with everyone is bringing into question his age, 35, and the whole stat with the record of people 35 under 170 fighting for the title. I don't exactly remember it, but it's like 1 in 30 or something really bad like that. But that's also a factor, but I think it's just the fact that if he was 35 and didn't take these losses and have that damage, I don't think people would really be bringing that up. I think it's more because of his recent performances. But Ilia Topuria, he is undefeated. He's been running through everyone. His last fight, he was able to prove to everyone that he can go 5 rounds at a good pace, absolutely destroy Josh Emmett, and had a great showing to earn this position here to fight for the belt. And he's extremely confident he's going to take the title from Volkanovski, and he feels like he's getting him at the right time, and he's going to turn into a superstar and go on his run. And a lot of people are kind of thinking it's a little bit reminiscent to Conor McGregor and things like that. So Ilias definitely has that superstar aura, and if he can seal the deal and get the title, I think he can move into becoming one of the bigger stars in the UFC. But how these guys match up, it's Alexander Volkanovski, we all kind of know how he fights. He's an extremely educated guy. He's very well-rounded and switch stances. He likes to primarily stay on the outside, use his kicks to set up his punches. And in this fight, that's going to be paramount because he doesn't want to be in boxing range against Ilia Topuria. Ilia Topuria is one of the best boxers in the UFC, and I think a lot better boxer than Alexander Volkanovski. Volkanovski, his game plan, in my opinion, for this fight, what he wants to do, he's going to have to try to... Ilia has that low stance, so throw a lot of leg kicks, which Volkanovski does in majority of his fights. He's going to have to snap those leg kicks out there, snap the body kicks out there, try to kind of throw off Ilia's rhythm, use those exits to both sides to kind of get Ilia guessing on which side he's exiting on and just try to move like a go, switch stances like you always do. And then use your kicks to set up longer combinations. Because sometimes Volkanovski will kind of throw only like 1-2 punch combos. And if he does that against Ilia, he's going to get fucked up. Because Ilia will just pull back, land counter combinations. And I think he'll be able to land clean on Volkanovski. So Volkanovski's going to have to throw longer combos back Ilia to the cage when he does go in with the hands. And use his kicks to set up his punches. And then I would try to initiate the grappling, try to initiate clinch exchanges, try to get takedowns, get on top, try to test that gas tank of Topuria even more. But some of the things that I don't like that Volkanovski does in this matchup for him with Ilia, and I think Ilia will capitalize on, is the way Volkanovski likes to kind of, he'll try to use his rear hand, like he'll move it out to like parry your shots or kind of gauge distance or whatever he's trying to do with it. And when you do that, I mean, you're leaving yourself open for body shots, man. And I feel like Ilia could really rip to the body on Volkanovski if he's doing that, if he's trying to kind of use his rear hand to gauge distance. And then another thing, it's he ducks in a lot. Like, he'll duck down when he's coming forward. I feel like Ilia can meet him with uppercuts. He can meet him with knees, with shots up the middle. And we've seen other fighters have success doing that with Volkanovski in the past, and I feel like Ilia has the style to do that very effectively. So those things I feel like Volkanovski has to sharpen up a little bit. I think he can't be playing around with that rear hand. He has to keep it tight to his body, and he can't throw these short combinations, and he has to be on the outside, setting up his punches with his kicks. He can't let Ilia pressure him into boxing range. and then he needs to probably be able to dominate in the clinch. But with Ilia Topuria, this guy's a beast, man. I mean, he has some of the best boxing in the division. His last fight, he showed really good fight IQ because he fought Josh Emmett, who has that really low stance, who likes to be a heavy forward pressure boxer, and he really beat up his lead leg and used that to set up, all the punches that he landed and a lot of the significant strikes that he did end up landing on Josh Emmett. But Ilia, he's someone that likes to pressure forward, get in the pocket, and in the pocket, he's one of the best there. He is really good at rolling with shots, slipping shots, returning. He throws long combinations, really nice uppercut, and then he's a very good counter puncher as well. And Volkanovski likes to counter, so I think Ilia needs to try to use pressure feints to draw at the counter and then kind of counter the counter of Volkanovski. And if he could pull back and land those long combinations with the pullback uppercuts, pullback rear crosses, 2-3s, then he could definitely potentially get Volkanovski out of there, in my opinion. I think he has the chance to knock him out. He has that kind of power. One thing about Ilia that he does do that can get him caught sometimes and Volkanovski has to capitalize on is, it's not really Volkanovski's nature to do this though, so I think it's going to be difficult for him to really capitalize on this. But what Ilia does sometimes is he'll throw that rear cross or the right hand, and then he likes to follow with those super hard left hooks. And if he does that in this fight, he could potentially get countered like we saw in the Jai Herbert fight where he's throwing that right hand, then he doesn't bring his hands back. He throws that big left hook. He's there to be countered and exposed, and maybe Volkanovski could come in there, clip him with a shot, and potentially, change the fight, either hurting Topuria or being able to do that more and more often. But I don't necessarily feel like Alex has the power or the boxing timing or the ability to throw head kicks to really kind of make that a big deal. And even if he does counter Ilia, I think Ilia is willing and able to take a shot, keep coming forward, and give his own. And as far as the grappling goes, Ilia is a super high-level grappler. He's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. He has good Greco-Roman wrestling, I believe. And I think that he's probably going to be able to defend the majority of the takedowns. And if he gets on top, I think he could have a lot of success versus Volkanovski. So I think Ilia has a lot of advantages here outside of just the youth. I think stylistically, he has good ability to cut the cage off. He's not going to let Volkanovski just skate around him and leg kick him. And I think with his low stance, with his ability to pull counter on the combinations, good job slipping the jab, I think that he's going to give Volkanovski a lot of issues. So that's definitely going to be the hardest matchup, I think, for Volkanovski to get through of the guys up there at 135 currently. But he just needs to kind of try to use that strong jab, set up his hands with his low kicks, and then kind of try to set up the grappling exchanges. And I think if he could do that, he could have success. But Ilia is going to be looking to pressure him, get in his face, throw better boxing combinations, throw uppercuts, throw strikes up the middle. And I think he could have a lot of success. He just can't get tired by allowing Volkanovski to push him against the cage, hold him there. He can't let Volkanovski get on top of him and slow down in the later rounds. And if Volkanovski has success with the leg kicks, I haven't really seen Ilia fight from southpaw stance that much, so that could potentially, be a factor. But I feel like Ilia proved a lot of things in his last fight. He proved he can go 5 rounds. He proved he was willing to go forward, go in the pocket with one of the heaviest, hardest hitters in Josh Emmett, easily outbox Josh Emmett, who I think has similar boxing style to Volkanovski, a lot of overhands and things like that. Volkanovski has more weapons and he's definitely smarter, but I think that they're kind of similar in their attacks boxing-wise. And Ilia, I just think, is going to eat him up with the longer combinations, with the pullback counters. I think he's going to be able to pressure Volkanovski and not have as big of a risk as he has in other fights of being knocked out. I don't think Volkanovski really brings that crazy power. And if Ilia could shut down the wrestling and the clinch of Volkanovski, I think he's going to be able to get the job